Socialite, you are the light of the world. Nobody lights a lamp and puts it under a bowl. So what they do is when your light is up, you put it on a table where it's going to give light to everybody. That's the same thing you need to do with the good deeds that you do. Welcome to Diary of a Socialite. My name is Mourine Obare, and sharing this stage with me is my host, Rozalia Gombera, who's going to introduce herself right about now.
Hi guys, welcome again. I would just like to say thank you so much for the support that we've received, both in England and in Kenya and actually a few other countries, but thank you so much. And we just hope for that, and as we continue this journey together, that we get to learn more together and empower each other. So today I'm going to jump in straight away and introduce the topic. So today we're going to be talking about juggling finances. As a woman, finances are very important, so we're going to get into that, and that's one of the things that you guys requested for us to discuss. So thank you, Mourine.
Okay, so so let's pick this conversation up from our last episode where we were talking about black tax. Have you been in a position where you've had to send money back to Africa?
Yes, so black tax is very real. I have to say, not myself personally, I've not experienced that much of it, and a little bit of it. Luckily, I have an older brother, so mainly all of the tax has gone to him. But I know he paid for like my other brother's school fees, the whole entire shebang, even at university and stuff. So it's very much real. I'm significantly younger than everyone in my family, so luckily I haven't been given that. But now that I'm an adult, I have had, people asking, and luckily, I've been quite truthful with them. So I've either told them I really can't afford it, so I haven't sent anything, or where I've been able to, like a baby being born, or people starting businesses, legit businesses, I'm gonna add. I've sent money over, and luckily it's been okay, and it's been something I've been able to manage. But I do know some friends that it's not the same. They're being asked at a very young age to support cousins and people's school fees, and expected to do it on a monthly basis for years. Obviously everybody's different, and everybody's duty is different in each family. So to be honest, I can't really speak for them, but I know it's a toll on the people here. So I think, if you're going to be asking from back home, please make sure that you really need it, because somebody's working a double shift for you here in the freezing cold because they think you're desperate for it. So if you don't mean it, please don't ask. That's my say for you lot.
All right. I think also on the flip side, I would also like to recognize there's a black tax, but also there's also another flex that we do not recognize as much. And I think that those are the people who are able to, or who are sending money from Africa to abroad. I think, what?
Yes. Oh, honestly, I didn't really realize this. And I've befriended a lot of African students. And, I'm hearing like, yeah, my mom pays for my tuition fees, my weekly allowance. And I'm like, what? Seriously? Like, I've never even thought about that. I mean, my family's not been that fortunate, to be able to do that for me specifically. So I was like, wow, that's amazing. So yeah, it's surprising.
So I think that's a real flex, especially here. I don't know, you can speak about about diaspora and abroad, especially back here in Africa, where we don't have like systems and structures in place. And you talk about how you guys are working double shifts and all that, but we're also in a space where we do not have proper structures and systems, and there's no order in, there's no order in which certain things or certain manners are supposed to be done. So for me, I'd just like to celebrate everybody out there who's, you know, working tirelessly and who's working hard in Africa, where there's no order, there's no structures, there's no system. Of course, I mean, we're working towards that. But as of now, if you're doing that and you're sending money abroad, then we celebrate you today. But also I feel like giving is something that comes from, obviously it comes from the heart, you know. You could be here and making money and you don't share it with anybody, or you could be there and not, you know, share it with anybody. So basically right now I just like to celebrate everybody, whether it's from abroad or it's from Africa, and they're taking that extra step, that sacrifice, to make sure that their family or relatives or that person that they don't know, they just take care of them.
That's an amazing point that you've made there, to just obviously appreciate everybody who they are. So now, as we go into womanhood and just us juggling our finances from preconceived notions into modern day, I'm just going to get a bit personal, if you don't mind, Mourine, and I'm going to ask just some of the things that you do. So, you know, like, how do you manage your finances in your industry? My industry is different. We're in 2 different countries. So if you give me a quick summary of what you do, then I'll tell you what I roughly kind of do. Obviously, don't be too specific, because we don't need people knowing how much is in your wallet. So, like you guys know, I'm a student. I have a part-time job here and there, more so in the summer breaks, I can work a bit more. So that's how I kind of trying to make sure that I have an income coming through that I can save up for, so that it lasts me throughout the year. I saved before I started studying, so a lot of that has carried me a lot in terms of paying for my rent. So here in England, things are a bit different because obviously healthcare is paid for, university education is not paid for. So as you can imagine, paying tuition fees, accommodation, student accommodation. So for me, it's a balancing of using the government debt. It's not a loan, it's a debt, it's a big debt. So balancing, getting some of that, and as well as making sure I don't rely all the way, because when I finish, I will have so much debt and it'll be a bit sad. So I do have a job. And then in terms of like on a day-to-day basis, having a budget. So obviously I know rent needs to be paid every month. I need food, I need petrol money. I need basically money to go and see your friends or go back home and all of that sort of thing. So I tend to have a budget, like written form. I mentioned to you guys about Excel. I don't use that anymore because with online banking here, it's very helpful. You can see how much money you have coming in and going out. And then separately, I then have like an Excel point where it just basically states what needs to come out, when it's coming out, that sort of thing. So that's how I kind of juggle day to day. So I was wondering, like, so what, like, you know, what sort of things do you do? For me, I know I'll get money like on a monthly basis because of the work that I do. So how about you, someone like yourself?
Me being in the entertainment industry, we don't have like, let's say a monthly income sort of, it's probably per job. So you earn from the work that you put out. So what I do, how I juggle is, number one, I make sure that the money goes back into the work so that I can be able to have like a stream of income. And the stream of income is what I'm going to use to, you know, like pay my bills in terms of my daughter's school fees, or my rent, or my food, or my transport. But the biggest share right now is going back to work, in terms of reinvesting it back to work for the future. So I do not spend as much, let's say, in holidays and all that. So right now, because I listen to Grant Cardone a lot. So what he says is, you know, you flex when you actually have the money to flex it, you know. So right now, all I'm trying to do is mount up all the money that I can, so that when it's time to flex, you know, then I flex for real, for real, for real. But that doesn't mean that I am stingy to myself, and I don't celebrate life right now, because you never know what tomorrow might hold. But also, being a responsible person, it means that you're able to save up for the future. It might not be you, it might be your child. So yeah, that's how I juggle, you know. So in as much as majority share goes back to work, it also goes back to savings. Because I also believe in leaving something for the next generations to come. So that's why I save up, you know. So that's how I look at it. So I'm not like on a monthly pay that I'll be like, this month I'm gonna get this, and this other month I'm gonna get this, and this other month I'm gonna get this. So it's you have to be very responsible, because it's so easy for you to get swayed and just use all the money that you have right now, because you don't know if you're gonna get it tomorrow. I remember when I just got into the industry, and as an artist, you can make a whole lot of money, you know. So if you're not disciplined, you know, in an hour or 30 minutes. So if you're not disciplined, you might think tomorrow is going to come, and tomorrow doesn't come. It stays for a whole year. Before you know it, you've used all the money. So when I was young, when I just got into the industry, into the entertainment, I was probably 20. I was earning a whole lot of money, you know, that looking back right now, I'm like, I wish I knew I'd saved it.
Actually, that takes me to the next question. I was going to ask what advice you would give yourself, and also what are the lessons learned. So please share with us advice you'd have given yourself.
Yeah, so when I got into the industry, I was young, 20. I used to earn more than, you know, what people in the white collar jobs would earn, you know, and I'd probably do it in less hours, in few hours. So it was all about, you know, you earn it, you don't know where it's gonna get into, you know. So you earn, but you think tomorrow you earn more, and you earn more. But what happens is, when that line of income stopped and you didn't save it up and you didn't reinvest it back to work or to your career or to something, then you get stuck. You know. Yeah. So I think that was for me, just sharing my experiences when I was young is, I was irresponsible in the way that I handled finances, but maybe I was young, you know. So I'm thinking it's about my shoes, it's about, you know, it's nothing major, and you don't have responsibilities. But all that changed the minute I got a child. Because now you have to feed them, you have to stop partying, you know. So you have to like think, you know. She made me think, and she gave me the discipline now of, I have to, and there are bills that needs to be paid. And I had to move out from my parents' house, because traditionally I couldn't stay with her. So you have to move out, you have to go to work, you have to pay rent and all that. So in my younger days, I misused a whole lot of money. You know, but looking back, I wouldn't change anything, because all those experiences made me learn a lot.
I think on the flip side of that, I didn't make that much money. As a dental nurse here, that you're pretty much near minimum wage. And living costs roundabout now is 25k, and I believe I didn't even make that much before. I was much lower than that. So I found that I was working a lot, so I didn't really allow myself the freedoms of, you know, Brazilian hair, because this is what was happening. That was what was popping, isn't it? Everybody had the weaves, the Brazilian hair, you know, getting the nails done and those sort of things. So although here you don't have to worry about, you know, healthcare, and I don't have a child, so I don't have to worry about a child. Living costs were expensive. I had to move out quite as soon as I finished. I had to move out a few years after uni, just because of the fact that you're not always able to work in your hometown, so you have to go wherever the job is. So, you know, I had my own car, I had my own rent to worry about. So I was fixed to look into that straight away. So I had to make sure those things were paid. And then whatever I had excess, I mean, I think there was one point I would only have like £200 left after I've paid my bills, and then my food as well. So then with £200, here could be like, at that time, like filling up your car 4 times. So if I went to visit friends that were far away, I could only go and come back, and go and see someone else and come back. So when you think of it like that, I didn't really have that money. So then my drive then was to make sure I make more money. But then some of the money mistakes I made was that I worked 3 jobs sometimes. Even I tried to balance and do little projects in between. which meant that I was exhausted a lot of the times. And even when I did make the money, with the way tax works here, although you do extra shifts, sometimes tax takes it away. So sometimes it's not worth it. So you need to really do the calculations. So I think something that I would have learned is making sure that, okay, if I'm going to work an extra shift, how much is it? It's going to go on tax. Am I going to increase my tax code and then actually be disadvantaged than if I just went and spent time with my family or just took a beat and just reflected on life? And also, I think mainly I would say try and enjoy yourself like when I was younger. Maybe I didn't necessarily rush out of my parents' house, but then I think I felt that I needed to get out just because I was an adult and I was just, they were, it's my brother and my sister that raised me. So I kind of felt the need to not want to be there just because I wanted to give them some freedom as well. And we had discussions, but I think looking back, maybe when I was there, I should have saved a bit more and maybe got on the property ladder a bit earlier because things are crazier now. But then for me, if I'm going to be 100%, I didn't make that much money. So trying to buy a house was never going to happen. Hence why one of the things I've done is try and put myself at a position to go back to school and go in a different avenue in terms of finances so that I can be truly independent. But having said that, I have been very independent as an adult female. So I'm thankful to God for that, to be honest, because you hear a lot of people that are not as independent, and it must be different having to rely on someone else's money when you just want to go to the shop and buy, I don't know, an apple pie or an ice cream, that you have to ask for someone else's money. So I would encourage anyone who thinks working is hard and maybe they should just settle. Please don't. Try different things. You will get there eventually.
Yeah. So maybe if I would ask you a question, because we're talking about juggling finances, and as women, we might be fortunate to be in a position where we can be able to get an income for ourselves. But maybe just throwing this question back to you, for the women who are not able to be in a position to earn right now, let's say our age group, what sort of challenges do you think they face from the lack of not being financially stable or not being able to have like any finances at all?
So for me, I can speak here about England growing up. One of the biggest challenges that's happening right now is the young people are being recruited into selling drugs. So, the gangsters or, the people that are into that lifestyle are targeting very young people. And it wasn't unheard of to hear girls selling drugs or young boys as well selling drugs. I'm going to focus on the girls, and also to date an older man. Get a guy who's 18 when you're 13. There's quite a lot of those type of relationships where I grew up because people want to have money. They want to have those trainers, sneakers, I think that you guys would refer to them as, to look good. So those are the challenges that I saw regularly. And it's so sad because obviously parents are working hard, yet they're not able to meet, the last side of a child's eyes. So I would say, if you're a parent here, try and help your children. I mean, get some sort of income, give them pocket money, so that way they can have some money. So because, I remember we would go out. I was fortunate that I would get £5 a week, which could buy me maybe a cinema ticket and a bus fare into town. But I could save that. And you're like, oh, if I wanted this, I could save that. And then I would then get whatever I needed, maybe in a couple of months, or, I would ask to do extra chores. That sort of thing. It balanced out. So I didn't really feel like I needed, maybe I wasn't exposed to, people that could give me more money. So I wasn't that lustful about the other side of things. But one of the benefits of being in England, you could get little jobs. So underage can work. Obviously not too young. I think 13 is the age you can start, but you can have, you can help babysit from when you're 14, you can babysit in England. So you can ask neighbors to look after their children, wash cars, and that's how you kind of make extra money. And doing paper rounds, like dropping off newspapers. So I think, the challenge is that you're going to see other people doing certain things and you're going to want to, especially in England, an average house is probably has a car, you have laptops, you have iPhones for every single member of the family. And speaking as an African kid, coming from Africa and coming to England, it's like, whoa, I can't believe these people have all of these things. Even the people that are on benefits, benefits is for people that either not working or, you know, they have a low income, the government helps them. But, you know, you see them with the latest iPhone, the latest trainers, and you think, my family are working and they don't have that. I wonder how I can get that too. So I know growing up, the temptation for young girls, British girls, and some, I would say probably one African girl that I knew of, they basically got pregnant early so they could get a house. Some of them get pregnant early so they can get a house. So those are the challenges that you have, because they think, you know, if they report their parents as being abusive so that the state can come and get them and take them into social housing. But obviously, if you're under 16, you're forced to care. But if you're over that, there might be an opportunity to get a house. Obviously, this is it's different. I think the laws have changed, so it's not always that reflective. But that's what a lot of people did when they were younger. They wanted to get out of the house. They would say something about their parents. Some got pregnant so that they could get a council house. And, you know, when they get to the reality of, oh, now I have a child, I'm not married, the guy that said he would help me is no longer here, or the fortunate ones that stay with the guy, it's like, wow, life is real. We have to raise a child. And that benefit money we thought would help is just for the child. And what are we going to do? So I think, yeah, as well as we're fortunate, there's some harsh realities here.
Yeah, I think that's some pretty good insight over there. More or less the same challenges that we also face back at home. And also right now, I'd like to ask you the flip of that, because there is the lack of the finances, but also we find that there are people who have the finances and still will probably find themselves having challenges, maybe more or less the same challenges, if not so different, you know? So what is this that would push somebody who has finances to still probably do drugs or sell drugs or get into prostitution? And, you know, what is this thing that would push them? Is it a financial thing that we're talking about, or is it like a personal issue that we're talking about here right now? Like in terms of character, what is it?
I don't think, okay, for the motives for the people that I know personally, or I've read about being in social health, like in healthcare, I get to be privy to a lot of, you know, information from people you meet, and you can find, most of them will tell you what's going on with their lives. Obviously, I'm not mentioning anyone specific, but the general consensus that I've picked up is that it's not to do with money. People are, you know, they're not always desperate because they're poor, then they're going to do this, but something is wrong. They're not happy, they're depressed, they're not where they wanted to be financially or other terms. They're not in a relationship, and they're following crowds. You know, they went to uni, they never smoked or touched a drug in their life. They get to uni, the housemate smokes weed, they take pills when they go out clubbing. They want to try it. They try it, and then they find that it's a habit that's stuck with them because they were trying to keep up with the uni culture. Or you get people that in certain towns, that's just the known thing. I mean, I remember the first time I went to university, my neighbors who were students, I went to meet them, and they were talking about the house smelling of weed, or somebody must be smoking weed. And I was like, I don't know what weed smells like. And, you know, the shock is like, you know, number one, you're black. And number two, you're black. That's the thing. And, you know, number three, you're a student. So how do you not know what weed smells like? Where did you grow up? In some village? And I was like, yes, I grew up in a very small town, like, you know, and I'm African. So obviously there's a road waiting at home if you misbehave. And yeah, so it's just people, you know, now I could have then turned around and said, oh, you know what? Some of the guys here smoke weed. I want to know what this thing is about. And, you know, followed suit. And then find myself that I'm now, because I'm spending so much weed money, I don't have money to pay for my accommodation, and student finance is not helping because I've spent it all. And then I would have had to act accordingly, which would be out of desperation. So I think depending on what you're following, then it then leads you to that money problem later on, somewhere like here in England. Obviously, I can't speak for everybody. I know there's some areas here that are like, you know, law deprivation. People are struggling with finances because they don't have any. They're being made redundant. Their industries are being closed down, and the benefits is not helping at all, especially if you're an immigrant coming in. You don't get benefits because you're not British. So I can't imagine what life is like for them. So those are the sort of people you find that will be working, for rubbish pay, rubbish conditions, working like ridiculous hours just so that they can get something, and they'll be getting paid minimum wage as well. So England is a state standard that you need to get, as different depending on your age group. But then if you're a foreigner, they know that you need the money, so they're going to literally tell you, okay, instead of getting paid £10 something, which is I think is the minimum wage, they would pay you 5. You're not going to complain because you need the job and you're desperate. So then you're going to just do whatever you need to match your living costs. So yeah, so this,
I mean, it's a good thing. I mean, it's a good thing you've mentioned the minimum wage. We're still working towards defining and having a minimum wage back here. So that will be a good thing. You had something for me? You look like you have something that you want to ask me.
I do. I have something really good. Now, I hear lots of stories about African girls or African women being, they get desperate. Everybody gets desperate. But I've had notions of, girls getting themselves a sugar daddy, or the YouTube videos of, African girls going to Dubai. And as someone of your stature who's been in the community and you speak to a lot of girls, what do you think leads to those desperate times, if you think those people are acting in desperate times, or is it just keeping up with the Joneses? What is your take on it?
I think looking at, we need to look at the, the background of everybody and where they come from, and in terms of environment, in terms of family, and how that has shaped a person or it has molded a person. Because it could be one factor, one of the factors. I mean, if it's done negatively, then a person would feel like, oh, I'm left out in this family, I'm not given attention, or probably I'm the black sheep. So they'd look for somewhere that they could have and lean on, So let's say, for example, if it's love, then they meet a guy, and this guy promises, gives, let's say, a lady all these promises of, I'll make your life better. And because they are desperate and they don't have time to vet the character of the person to know if they are really in it to help them, or they're in it for their ill advantages. So it's a question of, like I said, number one, the background, where you come from and how that has shaped you and has shaped your perception of life. Then if it's in a positive way, then you're not going to be desperate, to do other things, but if you had like a negative impact from your family, from your peers, it could lead you to rebellion. The opposite of like, now I want to show you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, Then there's just the issue of character, the issue of greed and of lust and of envy, in terms of, like you talked about, like you see your neighbor having a car, or, the children are, they're probably treated well, they're taken out, and you don't get that in your own house, or in your own environment. Then you feel like, let me get into this so that I can be able to also show, like, we can be at par with with our neighbors, so it's like you need to check your background. Your background can influence a whole lot of the decisions that you make. Then, your peers, your environment, who you hang around with. Then it could be just yourself, because sometimes it's the peers who are influencing you, and then you could be that person who's influencing other people, like the ringleader. You could be the ringleader. So it's just a question of an individual and the characters and the character traits that they possess as a person. If they're negative, then obviously it's going to lead them towards involving themselves in norms that might be destructive or disadvantageous to them, you know. So it's and then you say it's desperate. I mean, desperate situations call for desperate measures. You know, so sometimes it's desperation and it's survival. Can you imagine, like right now, the way the economy is so bad, so and everybody just wants to survive, you know. So if you don't have people who can help you get through, let's say, brokenness, or, you know, being broke, and help you go through that time until you're stable, then it could be, you could easily, if you don't have a strong character and if you don't have enough patience, you could easily get into, you know, vices, you know, get involved into vices or indulge yourself into vices to be able to survive. It is.
Yeah, it's easier. Sometimes instead of applying for 100 jobs and getting rejections, I mean, you know that uncle from next door likes you. Why not?
You know, but I mean, yeah, you know, but we don't, like, you know, just to sum it up, is maybe to speak to anybody out there, let's say, for example, to speak to the females out there who've found themselves in a space where they have been desperate and they've already indulged themselves into, let's say, for example, all these vices that we're talking about, drugs and all that, that it's never too late to change. It's never too late to get back on track. So if you've been in that space, you don't need to condemn yourself. You don't need to judge yourself. You just need to pick yourself up and, you know, and move, and make sure that you hang around people who also can support you in picking up the broken pieces until you're able to stand and get back on your feet. Yeah.
Well said, Mourine. Thank you so much for that. I think this is gonna we just round up our financial juggling session.
Yeah, but I don't think we'll be able. I think we'll need probably another session for this. Not today.
Another one. But just to say everything, we've heard both of our stories. We're in completely different two spaces, and one of the best things that I've obviously learned from Mourine and myself is that we've worked, and earning your own money ultimately means your own freedom. You might have done stuff in the past, you might have had to do stuff in the past, but where you are now, there is a chance for it. And don't be afraid to open and rechange. Go back to school, learn a new a new trade and stuff like that, and you see that things will generally change for you, and they will. And ultimately, we all I believe in God. And when I've been in my desperate times, I've asked for advice, I've asked for grace, I've asked for provision, and, you know, I'm thankful that I've not found myself on the street or any, you know, or dealing drugs or whatever else, and I'm thankful for that. So thank you, thanks guys, and thanks anyone else who's watching. As always, we appreciate your feedback, and let us know if there's anything you'd like us to talk about. Thank you.